today's virtual career exploration video. I'm Danielle Britton, Talent and Education Director at the Greater Binghamton Chamber of Commerce and Greater Binghamton Education Outreach Program. Today, I'm joined by Tom Gillen, Assistant Director at Broome Tioga BOCES and the South Central Regional Information Center. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right in, and if you want to just start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I live in Endwell. I live in a house of many women. I have 4 daughters and a dog. So we've got a crazy life right now and lots going on with the kids all over the place. I'm from the Greater Binghamton area. I grew up in Conklin, attended Susquehanna Valley. The family still lives in Conklin. I attended college at Penn State University. And when I graduated from there, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do, but ended up returning to the area. Got a job at a small company doing some IT work. Kind of grew out of that, and about 10 years ago, ended up at Broome Tioga BOCES and the South Central Regional Information Center. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, the state has designated 12 centers across New York State, deemed them regional information centers, and we're a part of the local BOCES. We actually support schools in the Broome Tioga BOCES region, but then also DCMO, so up towards Norwich, and ONC up towards Oneonta. So in all, we serve about 50 different school districts. And we provide various technology support services to them. Everything from infrastructure support to classroom device support. We take care of a lot of their data, all the state reporting requirements that they have, report cards, things like that. We employ about 180 people. About 85 of those are located out in the school districts throughout the region. We have about 60 people up on the campus at BOCES that are kind of our centralized teams, and we have a service desk up there. And then we have about 30 people that sit on in the administration building at Union Endicott and support applications for all of our districts.
Awesome. So what got you interested in pursuing this career?
So I think I've always enjoyed technology. I think when I was growing up, computers in your house was just kind of becoming mainstream at the time, and was lucky enough to have one, and it just really have always been around technology, always enjoyed working with computers, learning new things. As a kid, I would build my own computers, build my own, technology in the house. I like to learn, and in this field, it's constantly changing and ever evolving, so I'm always getting to learn.
Awesome. So what would a typical day look like for you? We're start with pre-COVID-19.
So a typical day is hard for me because my days vary quite a bit. But I typically work 8 to 4:30 or so. I work in various school districts in the region. And in my role right now, I do a lot of planning, honestly. Come in the morning and check in with staff. I meet with district administrators, principals, superintendents frequently to understand what's going on with them, understand their needs. Because really what we're trying to do is support what's going on in the school district. So we really make an effort to understand what's going on with them. I like to walk around. I'll visit classrooms, check in with office staff just to kind of get a feel of what's going on. We're constantly evaluating new systems as things change and needs come up. We're looking at new ideas and new solutions. So I spend some time, taking those needs that we get and figuring out how we can solve them. I work, before this, I worked a bit with remote teams. Like I said, we have people in different locations. So we were set up to do some virtual meeting stuff, not quite on the scale we're doing now, but did have experience with that. Spend a lot of time coordinating updates, so when there's going to be downtime for different systems, when can we do upgrades, when can we replace technology in the schools that are going to be the least impactful to people. This time of year, a lot of budgeting, figuring out replacement cycles to keep technology refreshed in the schools, working with the various funding sources that school districts get for technology, whether it's from the state or grants or other areas. We also work a lot with data requests. Data is huge in schools. It's used in many different ways. So getting data, the right data to the right people in the ways that they need it, we spend quite a bit of time doing. Working with teachers on what they need. So training teachers on the different platforms available, listening to them and figuring out what we need to set up to support them as we roll new things out. And then I think another thing that's been a big item in the last year or so is data security and privacy. So we spent a lot of time putting controls in place to make sure that student data is being kept secured, working on policies around that. So that's been a hot issue for the last 12 months or so. In addition to those things that I'm doing in the school, I do hiring and reviews of some of our staff. So as we continue to grow, we're fortunate. So we hire quite a bit. So interviews, things like that. And then I attend trainings too, so I can keep up with what's going on, whether it's things going on up in Albany, new regulations from the state education department or new technologies.
Awesome. So you mentioned a little bit about more remote meetings, but how else has your work day and kind of your workload changed? I imagine it's changed a lot, supporting
Yeah,
all the schools working, teaching from home, but how has it changed for you?
it's been a crazy month.
Mhm.
I think it's been a month, however long we've been quarantined. Um,
Over a month.
well, initially, when schools started shutting down and realized that they were going to have to have a period of time when kids weren't going to be there, um, there was a number of priorities they had, but one of them was getting technology out to students. So initially, we spent a lot of time just getting devices out to kids, and I think we still are to an extent. But I think right now we've handed out close to 30,000 devices throughout the schools that we have in a relatively short amount of time. So, you know, that was that was a change for us. And then all of our staff is working remotely from home at this point. So just figuring out, and district staff, figuring out how to get remote access. So the critical things that people needed. How can they do payroll? How can they do, the big things were the priorities. But now we're to the point where we're working on file access for teachers and things that were already in place and just, standing things up so that they can get to what they need.
Mhm.
Um, we're very used to supporting staff directly. Like I said, we had um, people embedded in the school districts. Now they're doing that all remotely. So getting them tools so they can work with teachers and staff remotely, do things as much as they can over the phone. Um, coming up with new ways to get information out. We've actually started an initiative which we've dubbed Tech Talks, where we have like open Zoom calls for teachers and they're able to hop on and kind of ask any question they want and collaborate with each other. And that's really started to take off and been popular. Um, the other thing, and probably one of the biggest shifts for us, is we went from just really supporting teachers on the help desk to supporting parents and students. So um, we've got about 60,000 students that are able to call in to that, from those 50 school districts. So it's been different because working, sometimes working with a fifth grader over the phone has been a challenge. So it's been interesting. Many meetings like this over Zoom or
Mhm.
Microsoft Teams. Um, we've worked with schools a lot to figure out how they're going to do grading for the end of the year and changing systems so that they can accommodate what they need to do to get kids graded. And obviously, the state's canceled all the state exams. So, what do we need to report to the state? How do we record all that? So that's been a huge undertaking. Um, we've gotten a lot of requests for virtual events like these. All districts have switched to virtual board meetings. We're beginning to get requests for other events, things like graduation, because it's looking more
Mm.
and more likely that, we won't be able to have traditional graduation with large groups of people. So districts are starting to take a look at how they can do that in other ways.
It's very interesting times.
It has been.
Yeah. Um, what sort of courses in high school or activities would you suggest for high school students if they're interested in kind of exploring careers in the IT field?
I think obviously technology courses, anything
Mhm.
you can take that'll help you problem solve, um, learn how to interact with different technologies. Um, I also think that communication skills are critical, so or even public speaking, things you might not necessarily think about in the technology field, but we do a lot of communicating. It's I think a different industry than it was probably 20 years ago, where we're interacting more and more with people. We have to document what we're doing. You might not be able to solve the problem, but you have to be able to write what you did so the next person can pick it up. So I think
Mhm.
those skills are important. I think there's many different clubs and groups in the different school districts that students have access to around technology, gaming clubs, things like that. The more you can get involved around that, I think the better prepared you'll be.
And what about for college? So I assume that this is a field where you need at least probably a 2-year degree. Is that
Yeah,
accurate? Or?
it depends. I mean, I think
Mhm.
we've hired staff. We have some different positions, so I think a 2-year degree is probably the average. We have had people that have come in with other experiences, but I think certainly a 2-year degree helps you. I think it makes you more well-rounded. Um, we have people with 4-year degrees as well, that
Mhm.
that have other skills besides just the tech piece.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting, for those listening that have maybe watched a couple of these. I think almost everyone we've done so far has said some form of public speaking. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. What additional advice might you have for somebody interested in this field?
To kind of build on the public speaking, when I hire people and when we hire people, the number one thing we look for isn't technology skills, it's customer service skills. So I
Mhm.
think the more you can concentrate on those soft skills, the better. Our philosophy is kind of tech changes so much that you can learn that and it's going to change anyway throughout the course of your career, where those soft skills I think are sometimes harder to learn. So I would focus on those. I would encourage people to explore and tinker and take things apart and build things and just play around. And I think that's a great way to learn. And that's a lot of the ways that we end up solving problems, even in work, is you take some experimenting sometimes. And then I also know, just a little plug for us, that we work with a lot of the school districts on work-based learning opportunities. Many of our school districts have students working right alongside us during the school year in our tech departments, where they get credit, they get paid, they get experience. I think those opportunities have grown over the last few years, and I think that's a tremendous experience. So I would encourage any high school students in the area to look into those opportunities.
And what are the best ways for them within their district to find out about those?
The guidance department has the information for those, so if they're interested, check with your guidance counselor, and they should be able to point you in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about all that you're doing and keeping our schools going right now. I'm sure it's a heavy lift, and telling us a little bit more about your career. If anybody has any additional questions, on the last slide of this video will be my contact information, and I can help connect you with Tom and get those questions answered. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.